Hey everybody, did you know you can go to colinmullen.com in order to get art and art prints? That's why I set up the website, colinmullen.com. So hey everybody, today we're talking about how to take good pictures of your work. You might want it for portfolios, you might want it for prints, whatever the reason, we're going to be talking about it. And we're going to be talking about both DSLR stuff as well as not, because I'm a little scrappy on this channel. We try and get around the fact that we don't always have everything that we need. And that's what I'm going to be talking about a lot today. So I'm going to be talking about a bit of the theory on why you do the things you do when you're setting up for a camera. And then you can try and do this as close as possible with what you have as your setup. So let's start with even lighting. Now that's a lot easier if you have a nice thing like this guy here. You can get these on Amazon, and they provide nice lighting for camera work. They're great. One of mine broke, and you kind of need two of them so that way they don't have all of the light coming from one side. So that way the lighting is a little bit more even across. One of mine broke, so I can't do that. So I'm having to come up with a different way of doing this. I did stream the other day, me taking pictures of my work. And because I only had one of these, it blew out the image really bad and it just looks awful. So instead of doing that, instead of having that as a thing, I decided to set up a different setup in the living room. So I'm going to show you that setup as well as some of the stuff I was doing on stream, just that way you guys have an idea of what I'm talking about. But even lighting means that you don't have what's called hot spots. That is all of the light appearing on one spot of the canvas, just blowing out the image. You'll see it. I'll try and have an example here for you, but it's not good. And there's a couple ways you can get around that. Honestly, most of the time I prefer to go outside to take my paintings or take pictures of my paintings, because the sun, especially if it's a little bit cloudy out, the clouds can act as a diffuser, a thing that doesn't allow the light going through at all in one point, but instead will, spread it out. That's what this white bait here is supposed to do. It's supposed to make it so that way it kind of, doesn't all come in at one area. It's helpful. But sometimes you can't do that. So I couldn't do that today. I couldn't go outside and take pictures because I don't want to dox where I live. So I had to come up with a setup for inside the house. And maybe it's raining or whatever, you'll need one as well. So here's the setup that I have using the paper towel diffuser technique that I've decided to use, in order to make it so that way not all the light from the lamp there hits the canvas and blows out the image, by having just something that is a little bit sheer, preferably not colored, just white, so that way it doesn't add any color to it when it goes through. Really helps out and makes the image look a lot nicer. You also want to make sure that your camera and your painting are leveled. So in some of these pictures, you'll notice that there is a level, literally a level on top of the canvas. That way I can make sure that it's even. Then I do the same thing with the camera. And then I make sure that the camera has a straight shot to the middle of the painting. And we try and crop it as close to the edges of the canvas as possible. If you get at a weird angle, obviously if it's at a very sheer angle, you're gonna see some distortion in how the canvas looks, how the painting looks, and that's not what you want. You want to take it as straight on as possible. So if you're outside, taking a picture of it when it's on an easel or something can make this very difficult, because the easel will have it at a diagonal angle, and then so you'll have to try and mimic that diagonal. If you can, hang it on a wall, so that way it's a straight 90 degrees up from the wall, and you can have just a flat plane against your flat plane of your camera. That would be preferred. It took a little work to get it set up in the house, but eventually I did, and it looks pretty good. Second, or I guess third now, you want to make sure that you focus in, obviously. Easiest way to do that is to zoom in all the way with your digital camera to the center of the thing. If you have a digital camera, most iPhones and stuff like that will do this automatically, but you might have to mess around with the settings a little bit. Most importantly, when it comes to getting the camera leveled and getting into focus and stuff like that, is making sure that you have that lighting so that way it doesn't have to compensate and try and make up pixels in order to make it look good. But also you want to make sure that it also is leveled so it doesn't skew. And then the being on a tripod, I think a tripod is way more valuable than a lighting setup, because trying to get the same angle every single time, I've got 15 paintings I need to take pictures of. I need to figure out that angle 15 times? Nah, I'm good. Keep it easy, have a tripod and a decent spot to hang your work, and that'll make your life so much easier. So if you're gonna invest in anything, I'd say a tripod would be the way to go. And lastly, you want to use a timer when you take a picture, because although it's subtle, although it's small, the you pushing the button on the camera shakes the camera a little bit, and it'll cause it to go a little bit out of focus, and you get not quite as good of an image. So if you're taking a picture with a iPhone or a Android or whatever you're going to use your phone, just set it onto selfie mode or whatever, take the picture, get out of the way, make sure you're not touching it, and that way it gets the cleanest possible shot with no shake. It's nice and even because it's on a tripod. You got the lights set up, but they're not overly hot. They're not blowing out the image because you've got diffusers of some sort. And there you go. That's the basics of how to take a picture. But then there's the next step, and that is going to be trying to actually make the painting look good once it gets onto the computer. So now we're back at the computer, and we've got these two file types here. This step is going to be exclusively for people with DSLRs, but we will go back to something that everyone can use in just a moment. So the CR2 is a RAW file type. That means that the camera has not tried to do anything to compress it down to make it more usable. It's just all of the data that it could possibly store all at once, whereas the JPEG is, you know, a little bit more usable right off the bat. And if you're just going to send this off to someone or whatever, I guess the JPEG's fine. But we're better than that. We're artists. We're going to make this as nice as possible, and so we're going to use this raw file type in order to get us the cleanest possible version of this image. And that's what we want for printing and pretty much any use, really. So we're going to drop this into this folder called new folder that I've got here, and we're just going to put it in there. Bam. And the reason we're doing that is because that's where I've set raw therapy to look. Obviously, this is going to be different for you. I've got links to all the different programs we're going to be talking about in the description down below, so you can go and get these. These are all free because I'm a little bit scrappy, like I said earlier, and we're not going to pay for anything we don't have to. And it looks like it did a pretty okay job getting the diffusing going. It's a little washed out, but I think we can fix that. I'm pretty happy, generally speaking, with it. You can go ahead and try and use the white balance tool, but honestly, I'm not a huge fan of it. I just know how to use GIMP better, so we're going to do the color correction in GIMP instead, and we're going to go ahead and save it in the same folder, but we're going to save it as a TIFF. So you just go down to file format and you change it to TIFF, and go. So a TIFF is just a very nice lossless file type as well, but it's one that GIMP actually knows how to use, and we're using GIMP today because I don't like paying for Adobe products because they're kind of awful. They want you to pay weekly or monthly or whatever now, and no, we're not doing that. All right, and then here is GIMP, and we got it in the program. We're going to do a slight rotation here in order to make it look pretty, because if you notice the distance between, well, we can use the selection tool just to show this off. I can go ahead and click and drag to the edge of the canvas here, and there's a little bit of a difference there, right? This it's touching, over here it's not. We need to fix that. Just didn't hang it perfectly straight. Didn't have the legs on the camera perfectly even, I guess. So this is why we're here doing the editing stuff. So go over here to the rotate tool. It may not say rotate. If it doesn't, go ahead and right click it, change it to rotate, or hit Shift R. We're gonna go ahead and do a slight correction here. I want to say that 0.8 is probably the correct answer for me. This will be obviously different for you, depending on how much you went off. Now, when you do the rotations like this, it's going to try and put pixels on like diagonals that weren't on diagonals before, and vice versa. So it's going to make up data. So the more you do this, the more messed up it gets. So first off, if you get it wrong the first time, Control Z, back up, try again, get it right, and go from there. You ideally wouldn't need to do this at all, but I screwed up, and I figured I'd show you how to fix it just in case if you did as well. So we click rotate, takes a second to do so, and then we're going to go ahead and click the selection tool. We're going to find the topmost corner that we can get to. We're going to click and drag all the way down to the bottom opposite corner. We're going to try and get it as close to the edge everywhere. Now, you'll notice that it's getting a little bit of the wall, so we're going to bring it in a little bit. But on this side, I think we're pretty good. Yeah, I think we're good right there. All right, so now that I've got the selection just right by dragging these areas or the corners or whatever needed to happen, I'm gonna go up to image and then down to fit canvas to selection, bam. Click anywhere just to get rid of the selection. And then we're gonna go up to image again, down to transform, And then for me, I need to rotate it so that way it's actually the way it ought to be. And then we're going to go ahead and open up a new layer. With this new layer, I'm going to go ahead and make these colors like super weird so that way you know that it's not the colors that, yeah, okay. So I'm going to find the whitest white part. Now, obviously, if you had a color key card, you could just pick the colors off that. You can make one yourself by just painting a piece of cardstock white and black. And that way you can, you know, have that as a reference point. On this painting, I know I used explicitly white and black, so we can actually just go find those pixels. So we're going to go find this pixel right here, where it's the whitest white, and we're going to click on it with the eyedropper like so. Then we're going to switch the colors, and we're going to do the same thing with the black, which we have some black right here. That's the blackest black that we have on this canvas, perhaps even here. I think right there is probably, yeah. All right, now we're going to zoom back out. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and click new layer. We're going to make a new layer, and we're going to fill both of these new layers with the colors that we just got. So I made that one invisible by clicking the eye. Then I clicked on the layer below it, and we're going to go ahead and fill it like so. Okay, so this is the lightest. This is the white, right? So it's a little bit off white. It's kind of like almost pink, I want to say. So now obviously this is going to look different on everybody's monitor, because I mean, if you go watch this on like your computer versus your phone versus your mom's computer, first off, thank you for watching this video multiple times, but also you'll notice that there's a difference in just like how everything looks. And it's because monitors have different settings. So we're going to go up to colors here. We're going to try and fix the colors that actually exist. We'll go up to colors and go to invert. Now we've got this awful brown. Go ahead and click that. Click the eye thing on the blue color, this dark black that we had. And go back down to invert again. And now we have these two things. Now, so for the one that was formerly the dark color and is now the light color, we're going to go ahead and choose burn. I'm going to go and make it invisible for a second. And we're going to pop this guy back up so we can see him again. We'll go to mode. We're going to go down to dodge. On the other one, the one that used to be the light one and is now the darker color. And now if we turn them both on, get pretty dang close to perfect settings. Now we're using basically color theory here, because the opposite of whatever that pink color was apparently like this. It's kind of like a green, like an olive drab. At least that's what it looks like to me. And by doing the opposite of it and then dodging it, it will mix that color with the color that is there, and it'll, you know, go to a more neutral color, something in between the two, which is more accurate to what the actual canvas shows. And now, if we look at it, it looks pretty dang good, yeah? You can actually raise or lower either of the opacities on these to get it perfect. I honestly want to probably back this down quite a bit to get real dark with it. May just get rid of that layer entirely. Yeah, I think on this one I am going to get rid of it because this makes it look more like the original. And that looks pretty good. So now we'll go up to File, Export, and create new folder. And this one's going to be called Finish. And we're going to have a new folder in there, and it's going to be called For the Website. Okay. Then we're going to back out, and we're going to create another folder, and it's going to be called For Printing. And we're going to put this one in here. We're going to actually name it a real thing so that way we don't get confused later. So we're going to call this Walk Into Nothing. And that's the name of this image. Whoops, don't be a JPEG. No. Be a TIFF. No compression, just go for it. Thank you. All right, so that's the image that we want to have for, you know, the actual prints. This is the highest quality version of this image that we can make. But what about for the website? Well, I don't want the highest quality version for the website because it's actually fairly easy to steal images off the internet, right? You could screenshot, you could maybe, there's like 1,000 different ways, right? Click save. So there's ways to get around that. You can obviously put, if you're a website codey kind of guy, you could put stuff in the way that makes it so you can't take screenshots, or if you do take a screenshot, it does something weird instead, or when you right click save, it just gives you an empty PNG instead. Those are all great, but at the end of the day, someone is going to be able to figure out how to get around all those protections, and we want them to not have the best version of the image, so that way the best version of it is the one that we're actually like selling, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to image, we're going to go down to scale image, we're going to take the bigger of these two numbers. So the width is the bigger of the two. I'm going to change that number down to 1,000. Go pop, pop. Just that way it actually recognizes that we made that change. And then we're going to hit scale. Take a second. And now we have a smaller, but still pretty good version of the same thing. We're going to go ahead and export that into the for the website area. And now we have two versions, the exact same image, but one is big and the other is not. And that makes it so that way we have everything that we need for printing, as well as anything for sharing online. So if you're going to post on Tumblr, if you're going to post on Twitter, whatever, and someone tries to steal your image, you know they don't have the best version. You can even go lower than 1,000 as your bigger of your two numbers if you'd prefer. And that way you can actually get a even worse image. I like having 1,000 because that ends up still being a pretty good image without like also destroying the person's computer while they try and load up the website. Doesn't take like 3 years to load your website or whatever the heck you're using for your showing your art off. This is how I process images. There are better ways of doing this. There are people who are more accomplished than me that can do this, but this is the way that I understand how to do it. We've done some color correction. We got the image cropped as best as we could. We set up the lighting, we set up the camera, we set up everything we could, and then we have two versions of it saved, one for printing, one for everything else. And it looks pretty good. I like it. I think it looks great. But anyway, here comes the part of the video where I'm supposed to thank all the people on patreon.com/RevScarecrow who make these videos happen. So let's do that. You can if you want to, but I want to thank the people at the $5 tier or more. When I actually get all these canvases on sale, I'm going to try and get a link for the people who are in the Discord. So if you're a Twitch sub or if you're on the Patreon at $5 or more, there'll be a small discount on top of the already large discounts that these canvases will all be being sold for. And you'll have access to that, any other weird thing like that I ever come up with, as well as a Discord where you can talk to people who are like-minded, who enjoy art, who enjoy video games, all that kind of stuff. And we're gonna thank the people at the $5 tier or more, starting with my parents. I love you. Thank you, Wap Fu. Thank you, Toph Andor. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Skelecorgi. Thank you, Reverend Joe. Thank you, Retrograde. Thank you, Mortis. Thank you, Maliciousness. Thank you, May. Thank you, Lost Nevada. Thank you, Kayla Hollinger. Thank you, Gala. Thank you, Gabriel Bennett. Thank you, Egg. Thank you, Dragon. Thank you, Chiptune Glitch. Thank you, Bungle Paws. Thank you, Blake. Thank you, Pep. Thank you, BD648. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Acrobus. And thank you, Ats! Okay, well, I hope that this video was good. I had so many problems setting this this whole thing up for this video. Everything broke. Like the 1 week where I'm like gonna take pictures of my paintings, everything breaks. The lights are broken, the camera is doing some weird stuff. We're just having a great time here making everything work, but we're able to get something together, and hopefully this was somewhat helpful to you. And if it was, let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next one.